What's up, you guys? Gonna make a video introduction into the cosmology of the black flame. In order for me to present my cosmological model, you gotta be somewhat preformally modified, so I have to introduce certain fundamental concepts and whatnot, initiatory visions, visuals, which you can then construct a base to build the actual cosmological model on of the black flame. But it all started with I wanted to explore the concept of emptiness. The idea of emptiness just totally fascinated me because it's elusive. It's apparent. You know what I'm saying? We look all around. We look at your hand. There's nothing in your hand. You think your hand is empty, but even though your hand is apparently empty, it's not truly empty. And in a sense, it is true that it's empty, but in a sense, that it's also true that it's not empty. But is your hand actually empty? When you look at it and there's nothing in your hand, well, no, your hand is not actually empty. There's a whole multicosm within the palm of your hand, divided across space itself. Plethora of microscopic organisms across various tiers or dimensions or whatever you want to call it. You look until you think you found the smallest thing, and then scientists look some more and they find even smaller things, and then more scientists later on find even smaller things. So where does it end? And that's kind of one of the paths that I took, was reduction. If you were to remove all things and continue to remove everything, when would you actually find emptiness? How is it possible to actually find emptiness? Can we visualize actual emptiness? I know it's very easy to imagine a dark void. I think that's somewhat of an initiatory realm. But there's another path I took as well. I took two different directions, two different paths to understand emptiness. One was to go as far away from light as I possibly could, and then two was to become small, like I mentioned before. Now, as I traveled beyond light, I kind of came to different dilemmas. The first dilemma being, is it possible to imagine beyond light? Is there really anything beyond light to imagine? And I found out, yes, there is. Light goes so far and then it stops. It shines in a certain distance. It doesn't just go on infinitely. Now, I don't want to get into the model itself quite yet, but I will say this: if you were to attempt to travel away from all the suns, away from all the light, and periodically turn back to look back at the light, eventually you would travel so far from light, you'd turn back and you would see all the suns, all the stars. I call that the full volume of light, what you behold when you attempt to behold all the light of all the stars and all the suns and whatnot. You're beholding what's called the full volume of light, which I refer to as our known cosmos. The full volume of light and everything within that sphere, megasphere. I don't think humans will ever be able to have technology to go beyond the full volume of light. I just don't necessarily see that being a possibility. But there's, what you got to understand is, the full volume of light represents like a infinitesimal minitude. Okay, like, I mean, just say like less than a single percent is like an understatement. Okay, the full volume of light occupies a very, very tiny portion of the cosmos that is and that was before light. And yes, there was plenty before there was light, or I should say before there were, sustained light, the light of shining suns, stars, and whatnot. But again, I don't want to get into cosmological model itself. Just want to introduce some of these concepts, and something else that another dilemma that I came and found was the idea of space beyond light. Because if you imagine space wherein light shines, light itself is kind of like one of the major laws that govern over the space itself. You see what I'm saying? But when you pass beyond the influence of light, then all of a sudden there's different laws. You see what I'm saying? Like there's not universal laws of physics across the entire cosmos. And so this led me to develop the concept of spatial law. In other words, space is separated from itself by spatial law. In other words, a space is space because of the inherent law that exists within the space. Now, this then branched to two concepts. Well, where does spatial law come from? And I had two different concepts. Spatial law comes from realms, which is a fundamental space, which always was and always will be. Fundamental spaces were never created, can't be destroyed necessarily. But apart from fundamental realms imposing spatial law, and that's what makes it a realm. A space, even though there's nothing in the space, it still imposes the law. But then you have a second type of law that's imposed, and that's law imposed by objects within the space. So, for example, you have the stars, the suns. They're shining inside of a space. They're creating law within a space that already has existing laws in it. Now, some spaces might have more or less laws. And, there's a wide variety of spaces and whatnot, by difference of the law. Assuming that's how you determine the difference between spaces. The law that imposes upon its volume. But these are some of the initiatory concepts, the cosmology of the black flame. Something else that's important to note, I need to make a video about this. I made a video before, but I thought it was inadequate, so I deleted it. I'm going to make another one. If you happen to be watching this video and there's a video about modalities of consideration, that's the most current one. But essentially there's two different modalities of consideration. Case A and Case B. Case A, well, I'll start with Case B. Case B personifies everything and amplifies sensation. Okay, there's the main differences between Case A mode and Case B mode is how you treat person and how you treat sensation. Case B mode personifies everything. stars become people, planets become people, spatial law becomes a person, everything becomes a person with goals and personality and intentions and fears, you know, all kind of stuff. A person, a true person. And also amplifies sensation. So any sensation that's felt is just totally immersed into. Okay. Whereas case B is in complete contrast. Whereas case A is in complete contrast to case B. Case A depersonifies. Case A limits sensation, disassociates from sensation, treats sensation like almost as if sensation is foreign to our center. Sensation is a thing to be analyzed, is a thing to be scientifically examined. Sensation is not to be associated with. So a person might have a case B modality consideration. A person might have an experience, right? Two people have the same experience. Two people encounter a God. Case B modality of consideration person says, oh my gosh, I encountered this God. It was so amazing. The experience was so incredible. It felt so amazing. It was such a powerful, intense experience. And this being told me about all this stuff. Now I totally believe in him. It's a real living being. In case A modality of case A mode person having the same experience encountering an apparent deity considers to himself, oh, this must be a reflection of my own energy. Rather than giving myself over to the immediate sensations I feel, I will quell and analyze the sensations I feel and depersonify this entity into an energetic reflection of my own self. So I'm not beholding a living deity, I'm beholding non-living energy generated by my own self that's reflecting into some personalized form, representing some aspect of myself. So it all has to do with myself, kind of self-centric perspective. But when you understand the cosmology of the black flame, we're going to understand the cosmology of the black flame through the case A modality of consideration. In other words, planets are planets, they're not people, they don't change into people, they don't have faces, they don't talk to you. Okay? They emit hums. Okay, they turn and shift. They do things that immaterial things do. They can be qualified, quantified, scientifically analyzed, impersonally. You understand? And somewhat cold. And so case A modality of consideration really works well with black flame cosmology, because black flame cosmology deals with basically lifeless cosmos. There's really no life out in the cosmos beyond light. But that's arguable. And in order for me to make a statement like that, I'm obviously, well, never mind, I'm not going to go on a wild tangent about some existential shit. Only a fucking fraction of occult sorcerers would even understand anyway. But these are really important introductory concepts to understanding the cosmology of the black flame itself. So hopefully you've watched this video first. Maybe you've watched this video, 2 or 3 times or something, so you can kind of go over and really familiarize and take in the various concepts I presented, because they'll be helpful to understanding the cosmological model of the black flame. Because the cosmological model of the black flame is pretty intense. Like I said before, the volume of space which light occupies, the full volume of light, our known cosmos, our known universe, is very tiny. It's a understatement to say it's less than 1%. It's I like to use the term infinite. What did I say? Infinitude, infinitesimal, infinitesimal minitude. Yeah, that's light for you. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. Introduction to the cosmology of the black flame.